Hey guys, JC Smith here. Today's the day. I decided what I'm going to do the F150, and my decision is I'm taking the motor out of the F250 dually project. I'm going to remove that 5.4. I'm going to make all the necessary preventative repairs, as in cam followers, lash adjusters, cam phasers, variable valve timing, solenoids, chain tensioners, guides, and chains on this motor before we put it in the Ranger, the F150. I keep thinking it's a Ranger because it's little. Anyways, so I got the F250 dually down here, and the plan is for this truck, we're going to pull this motor out. Now, we are going to take the bed off. We are going to take the cab off. And so the purpose of doing all that is we're going to put a V10 back in the F250. I have a V10 in the shop, and it was an option for this truck in 2006, and it'll make this thing so much better to tow with. So that's the plan. That's where we're headed. The only modification I'll have to make is changing the engine wiring harness to the ECM and the ECM, and I may have to have the ECM encoded, have the VIN number of this truck encoded to that ECM, but I'm not sure about that. This may be old enough it's not required. So that's where we're at. That's what we're going to do. So let's get at it. I'm going to bring you through the process of removing a cab. I've already taken it down to a buddy's place and had the air conditioning reclaimed, so the AC unit is currently empty. So that should save us a little bit of grief. Okay, let's get at it. Okay, first things first, we got to get the bed liner out so we can get to the 8 bolts that hold the bed down. We'll take the wiring loose for the taillights, and we'll take the fuel filler loose and take the grate all, and we'll lift this off. So we'll get the bed liner out now, and I'll show you what we do with the bolts for the bed. I've already had them bolts out, and I put grease on them when I put them back together, so we'll see how well they come apart. Okay, so this is something worth noting. If you ever take Ford Super Duty bed bolts out, they're not a Torx bit. Well, they are, but they're not just a Torx bit. They're what's called a Torx Plus. What this is, okay? I've looked all over the internet, high and low, for the longest time, and I never could find anywhere it showed the actual tool it used. This is Snap-on. It's a 50 IP, or TP actually. No, that says IP. It's a Torx Plus is what it's called. And you can see, I'll give you a regular Torx to compare it to. You can see the difference. Okay? Alright, so to the left is a Torx Plus. You see how it's more squared, more of a definite drive on these and not as pointed. This is a regular Torx. So if you use a regular Torx in here, this is typically why they strip out, for one. And two, something else worth noting is when you go to get these bolts out, that'll show up. These are triangulated cut. Okay, there's 3 points on these threads. It's kind of tough to see. Maybe it'll show up if I turn it for you. Okay, there's 3 points on these bolts, on the threads. They're actually meant to be a one-time use. To get these out, I usually heat up the bottom, because these come from the factory with blue Loctite on them. And I'll heat the bottom up just enough to get that Loctite loose, and then it'll come up. If I can get to the bottoms of the threads, I'll clean them up with a wire wheel or wire brush or something. Now this is grease, because I've cleaned the original blue Loctite off of it. And when we go to put this back on, see, you can see that high spot there where I just rubbed it, and there's another one right there, and there's one more right there which I didn't rub. So anyways, I'll clean these up again, put grease on them. They came out with no troubles at all, but they've been out before. So and don't try it with a ratchet. I've never had any luck with that. I've always had better luck with heating them and putting the bit down in it, and put a sacrificial extension in here, and then tap it pretty good, knock everything loose in the threads. That seems to work out pretty well, and then I hit it with an impact. I break a lot of these taking Ford beds off, so I have spares. the Snap-on guy just gives me spares when I break them. I just take him back a handful of them, and I get a handful more. Yeah, I'd like to make it, I don't want to make it sound like they break that easy, but they do. The best thing to do is heat these up. You get them heated up, they usually come right out. So, alright, so the bed's just about ready.
Lifting up the bed right now and making sure nothing gets stuck or gets caught. And I'm usually up there doing that, but I can't hold this and be up there. So that's good.
Okay, so the bed's off. That took all of, I'm thinking about 20 minutes tops. Of course, I used the, as Doug at Lakeside says, Lakeside Ranch, the best tool in my toolbox. I think Monte Carlo says that too. He said that once or twice. Okay, now we are on to, I do the interior first while I'm still kind of clean. Okay, so in the interior, pull the carpet back at your driver's seat. I don't take this stuff out until I'm ready to go back together. I don't want to lose any parts. This little rubber plug pops out. One bolt there. Then back here, this is an extended cab. If you had a crew cab, there'd be a bolt right about this location. Right here, you'd have to pull the carpet back up to get to. On the, let's see, 99 to 2000, and that would be at least to 2007. 2008, 2010, I think a couple of their bolts come up from the bottom. But anyways, so this is extended cab. It has two mounts at driver's foot, passenger's foot, and then back here, this seat, you just pull up. Stay here, I'll get the other side. Hit the unlock button. Okay, now this one, pull that, and there's one in the middle. There we go. And set this down here. And you can see down in here, pull that carpet up. You can show them that bolt back there. See it right there? Pull the carpet back some more. Nope, closer to me. Right there by your finger. You see the hump in the carpet?
Yeah.
Yep, there's the bolts. So that one over there, this one over here, there's one right here. See that?
Not from here.
It's right over here.
I think they get the idea.
Okay, worth noting, thread lockers on those again. That's why it fought it so much, but you can see how dry that is in there. These are not triangulated. These are just thread locked. Now, the driver's side, this bolt, front and rear on the driver's side, is 24 millimeter. On the passenger side, they're 21 millimeter. You know, and some of them they used to do where it had a different size shank coming through, as it was this size thread, and then it had a shoulder, kind of a body locator, but I haven't seen that on this one. So let me get the last one out, and then I'll show you the front core support bolts. Okay, so this is what I was talking about. This is in the back corner of the driver's side. 21 millimeter head. You see how the shank is larger than the actual bolt. I'm told that's a locator, so that when you set it in there, it gets the correct spacing front to back, left and right on that one corner. And that would mean there should be another one in the front. I leave the bolts right where they were, so when we go to put it back together, we don't have to guess which one went where. Okay, we're done in the cab. Now we're time to go under the hood, or underneath. There's not a whole lot underneath. There's parking brake cable, a body ground on the passenger side, the shifter for the transmission, and this is electric shift four-wheel drive, so it's wiring, so we don't have to do anything there because all that bulk connector stays with the chassis. A couple other small things. I'll bring you around in a minute.
Catch a glimpse of that Model A going down the road. That was pretty cool.
So this is a parking brake, and what I do is take, can you hold this right here? When this slides into this keyway, what I do is I take my air hammer with this point and I just tap on this backside this way until it pops out. Makes it so much easier. Alright, while I'm down here, I got to do the ABS connectors because they have to, this part of the wiring stays with the body. So I got to take this one loose on each side. Okay, so we're under the truck now. This is a shift linkage for the transmission. This is going to take me a lot longer to get this cab off today because of, you know, all the video we're going to do, but we're going to try and do this quickly. So this thing, you come in here with a little screwdriver on the back side, push out. You see how that works? Once you push out on it, you can push up, which is about impossible to do one-handed. Off. Now, something else worth noting is this has teeth on it. I don't know if that's going to show up real well, but you might be able to see those teeth in there. If not, you can hear them, maybe. Alright, that's your fine adjustment for park, for your shifter. For your prindle, it's called up on your dash. Alright, and the cable. So, sometimes you don't get these adjusted right, they won't go all the way in park, right? So, you put it in park, you hook your top side up, and you make sure it's up all the way, and then you put the keeper back in. But just so you know, that's how you get your fine adjustment. Okay. Alright, I'm done on this side. I'm going the other side to get a ground and ABS connector, and I think I'm done down here. I'm in so much of a hurry, I'm kind of skipping things for you, but this is where the shifter mounts the transmission. You can take it loose here, take them two bolts out, or you can push on this. There's a little sloped wedge keeper right here. Okay, you can see I've got it partially out. You just push down on that and you pull out on this, on both sides of the keeper up here also. You can see it right here, and it slides out, and those little keeper dogs right there are what lock it in place. So let me get that out. Okay, so there's a better look at it and how it works. Give you an idea here. Also, if it matters to you, if you guys ever do a two-wheel drive to four-wheel drive conversion on one of these trucks, this is a removable plate for the lever shift. If you use a lever shift four-wheel drive, it just unscrews. You probably can't see the screws up in there. Yeah, maybe you can. But you take the carpet out, and that is a metal plate with foam insulation on the back of it that is already there. So, okay, moving on. We're at the passenger side floorboard, like the front passenger. Right underneath it, see this body mount is, there's a ground here. That ground's got to come loose. And then we want to get this ABS connector, because this part stays with the chassis, this part goes with the body. Okay, so, and then I stick this bolt back in here, like I do most things, so I don't lose it. And I'm sure a lot of you guys are looking at this thinking this is really rusty, but for some reason, I mean, it has rust, but it looks worse on this camera than it actually is. But I mean, it's fairly typical for, you know, an 06 in Ohio.
Usually they're worse.
Yeah, there's actually a cab left here. The cab corners and the rockers and all are still in good shape. You know, there's some minor rust here. but you know, it's actually a nice shape for Ohio. Usually this is all gone in here, there'd be nothing left, but you know, I do pressure wash this a good bit. So okay, let's get on to the core support. We're going to put on my manifold set. I want to make sure this thing is empty. Open the valves, because you don't want to cut that open. Even though he said it was evacuated, sometimes they'll have residual pressure, and with temperature change, if it was cooler, which it was yesterday, than it is today, it could build pressure in here. So you always want to double check. But it's I'm on the high side and the low side, and we got nothing, so we're good to go. We're ready to take that apart. So on to, let's see if you can see that down in here. I'm going right there is a core support nut. Those are just nuts. They're 18 millimeter. I get a really long extension, and I'll just show you. Here is one of the core support nuts. I've got it off. It's an 18 millimeter. And over here, you have to take, on this one, the air cleaner out of the way, which is just in them rubber mounts here. Pop that out. You have a 10 millimeter nut right up here that holds it. I already got that out. Apparently there's a bee's nest, because I just got stung. And we'll get this out of the way here. Okay, so here's the other one. I like to use long extensions. Make it easier. Here, you hold this. In fact, I don't need the second one. So anytime I can do without one, I will. Get as much torque down there as I can.
Trying to get down in there. It's hard.
Yeah. Okay. That's for the core support. Okay, I'm going to get the sockets. We'll be on the master cylinder, an ABS unit, and some wiring. After you do that, we'll hit the steering column. Okay, you see what I got here. 13 millimeter socket on the master cylinder, long extension, my cordless impact. Easiest way to get in there, I found. Pretty simple. Now, the master cylinder can pull out of the booster. It takes a little chugging, and then there's a level sensor on the back of the reservoir that's got to come off, because this stays with the body and this stays with the chassis. And being this master cylinder staying with the chassis, I have to get a 10 millimeter and get the ABS unit unhooked from the body. So I'll do that now. Alright, so the top two bolts have to come out completely. And then this bottom one down here is slotted. So all you have to do is get it loose, which is good. It's probably loose enough. And then the whole thing will lift up and sit out of the way. Now you push in on this little thing. Can you see that? Mm-hmm. Little button there, you push in, take this for the ABS wiring, rotate it back, and then pull this off as straight as possible, because it's got pins inside here. Can you see that? And you don't want to bend these pins in here. See that? Okay, so now that we got that loose, we'll take all this and we're going to set it off to the side. Now, I may lose a little bit of brake fluid for a second until I tie that up, but I have to do some wiring disconnecting here. I always put my bolts back where they come from. That way it's out of the way. Now, here we have harnesses that go to the engine, which is going to stay with the chassis. So everything on this inner fender that goes with the body has to be disconnected. A trick I found with these is push in and then release it, and it seems like it comes out a little easier. Anything that stays with the chassis has to come loose. In fact, I need my little screwdriver. Here it is. I always keep this little screwdriver in my pocket because I end up needing it constantly on these things. As you can see, there's quite a few that got to come loose. I squeeze it together, then push down, then it comes apart much easier. Squeeze it together, push down, and apart. This helps to unlock it, makes it a little bit easier. Like this one, I'm having trouble. I can't seem to get my hands on both of them. There you go. And then there's one back here, and these are all color coded, so, and they're very specific, so you can't plug them in the wrong place. Okay, all that. This harness stays with the body, and then we need a couple push pins. I need that one interior tool you put away. Grab that.
Okay.
We're on the power steering, or the steering shaft. Pull this away from that. Push the brake lines back. That's a 13mm socket. Turn it so it's in a good location. And shake that out of there. And then I separate it with a little pry bar. Just push this back up, because the steering column is meant to collapse. So if you get in a wreck, it will collapse quite a bit before it shoves the steering column up into somebody's chest. Okay, that's about it there. Okay, that's off. Now I'll shove it up as far as it'll go so it's out of the way. You can see we got to get it around our brake lines here. It's easier to do this two-handed. Shove this up out of the way first, and then shove that up. Now that's completely out of the way. All the wiring on this side is done. Now, see what I'm doing with that bolt there. Everything is, anything I can put back where it belongs, that's what I do. Then I don't forget which one's which. Okay, now we're on the power steering. This truck has a power steering cooler. Most Super Duties do. So you'll see this power steering comes up here to a reservoir. Now there's several ways to do this. You see this line? Can you see this? Comes up into here, and it comes out here to a power steering cooler. Alright? The easiest way I've found to do this is to just go ahead and take the line loose down here, but that line's pretty cruddy, and I don't want to have to buy another line. So we may just take all of this loose, come out here, and take the power steering cooler off. So let me see what it looks like, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I'm down here. I'm going to do the transmission lines. The transmission lines come from the transmission to this canister filter, which, you know, nobody ever changes, and comes out with these two disconnects here. They're supposed to be quick disconnects. Really, they're just quick assembles, because there's nothing quick about getting these things apart. I usually soak them with PV Blaster and blow them out and get all the crud out of them way before I'm ready to go and try and get them apart, because they usually turn into something like that. So I always look at both ends and see which end will come apart the easiest. Now, one of these is going to stay in the bottom of the radiator over there, because it goes to the tranny cooler that stays with the body. And you can see right here which ones we need. Okay, we can take this one. Taking the hose loose is probably easier than taking that fitting loose. This fitting, I use this tool, real cheap Lyle tool. Pick it up at any parts store basically, or online, Amazon, whatever. And what happens is you take this and you shove it in until this edge touches in here, and then you pull out on the line. Okay, usually they're horrible. This one, I don't know why, but I put it in there, I pushed it in, I tugged on it a little bit, and it popped right off. Usually doesn't happen. Usually never happens, as a matter of fact. I usually have to fight them for a good while. So I'm waiting till my antifreeze is done draining, and then I'm going to pop that out in a drain pan, because I'm going to lose some tranny fluid right here. And I'm going to take this one loose right here, because this is by far easier and less risk than trying to take that loose. Because if you break this aluminum line, well, maybe that's not aluminum, that is steel there, but it goes into aluminum fitting. So I don't like to press my luck. You know, if there's an easier way like this, that's what we're going to do. Okay, let me do it. Okay, so you see we're losing some antifreeze here, and I took it loose here. This one's also loose, so this is ready to separate. Bottom radiator hose is off, and unless I've forgotten something, that should be everything up here. Now we have to get up top. Fan clutch needs to come off of the engine. It's just, you could take the fan shroud out, or the fan clutch, or both. We'll take the top radiator hose off, the hose from the radiator to the degas bottle, and the ECM wiring from the transmission and the chassis. So let's get up top and do that. Okay, this is what Ford calls the degas bottle. It's really a coolant reservoir. I like to take that off here. Because I don't want it getting hung up on anything, I usually take the top radiator hose completely off, because, you know, the whole body has to come around it. And these continuous or constant, I think they're called constant tension clamps. They're a pain in the butt to get off, but, you know, they really do work well. This is a very, very easy to break spout on the radiator right there. So just be careful of that. And then I like to take the top radiator hose off here, get that clamp up here. I usually just back it up a little bit, get a hold of it and give it a turn, toss in the pile of the rest, and now we'll head on this side. Battery and wiring. Take this loose. This is the cable running over to feed the fuse box. Okay, that stays with the body. This is for the alternator, so it stays with the engine. And this one is, ooh, I gotta get an 8. Again, put the nut back where it goes. Let me get an 8mm. 8 and 7 just in case. Okay, then the positive, this goes, can't get in there with this. Usually can. Alright, so this goes down to the starter. And since it goes to the starter, it's got to stay. So just pop that off. It's got a couple little retainers. There's one right here on the side of the battery tray. I lost that. There's one with a screwdriver. It's one of them real easy ones to get out, if you can get to it. Take that loose. And it also comes back into here. Like I was saying before about Ford's starters, all Ford Super Duties have this starter wire. Can you see that? Alright, you can pinch that, take that apart, and that is the wire for the solenoid. Okay? Now, we also need to get the negative off, because the positive and negative to the engine run together in some loom down here. So we have to take that out, and it's much easier to get to the body ground here with the battery out. So we'll just get in here, buzz that out. And then, again, goes back in here. I don't lose it. And then there's our body ground right here from the battery. So now, that is the chassis wiring. Okay? Now, like I said before, we've already had the air conditioning evacuated. It's been reclaimed. So, we can take the air conditioning lines loose. What I do before I take the air conditioning loose completely is I put my manifold gauges back on the low side port and the high side port, and I check them, which I've already done. And once I'm for sure that they are empty, I will completely disconnect the lines. There are a couple other electric lines here. This is all air conditioning. There's a plug back here you have to get to. And this goes to the compressor, and on the accumulator. So I like to tuck it all in here. So let me get my tools set up. I'll show you where I take loose the air conditioning, and it's actually very simple, and we'll get on the ECM next.